Historical Society on BCTV is supported in part by the Highlands at Wyomissing.
Hello and welcome to the monthly program of the Historical Society of Berks County. I'm your host, George M. Miser IX, President Emeritus of the Historical Society of Berks County. It should be noted that this program is telecast live on the first Wednesday of each month at 7. It repeats Friday at 10, Saturday at 6, and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Welcome all to the March 2010 program. Seated beside me is Joshua Blay, Curator and Associate Director of the Historical Society.
Hello, George.
And seated beside him is Ann Goda, a former curator of the Historical Society, who guests tonight in regard to observation of Women's History Month.
Yes.
And also with us this evening is Edie Sheehan Hammond, Superintendent of Hopewell Furnace, a National Historic Site located in Union Township in beautiful Berks County.
Hi, George.
Hi.
Our museum, Henry Hansen Library and Museum Store, open Tuesday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We might not be done with winter quite yet, so in periods of inclement weather, keep an eye on WFMZ Channel 69 on their website or on their TV for weather-related announcements. Our museum store has a large inventory of running and Berks County histories, both new and pre-owned. We have a wide variety of pottery, artwork, and craft items by many well-known artisans and potterers. Our March specials are Stahl's Pottery of Powder Valley, which we'll be talking about shortly, and also our Following the Drum, talking about ladies at Valley Forge. And we also have a 10% special on all framed artwork.
And while we're on the subject, let me see, we remind viewers that for $40 you can be one of us, a member of the Historical Society of Berks County. Membership in the Society includes our prize-winning quarterly magazine, the Historical Review of Berks County. Membership includes unlimited use of the museum and library. Incidentally, family memberships, all living in the same house, are only $50 a year.
And George, while we're on the subject of memberships, we remind you that Berks Community Television, BCTV, is a survivor and a tough venue and unique entity in that it's interactive. You are encouraged to call with your questions and comments to 610-378-0426.
Why not salute BCTV for all the great shows it provides to Reading and Berks, and send a check for $30 for a year's membership. Mail your check to BCTV, 645 Penn, Reading, Pennsylvania, 19601. Remember, time passes, but operating expenses never go away. I have an announcement. I made a few slides to go along with this announcement. The announcement came to me via an email about 20 minutes before I left to come for this program this evening. So the slides are not the finest example of my craft, but we do have a number of interesting pictures to show you. At 12 o'clock midnight on St. Patty's Day will be the annual observance of the Tum-Hanaho Alva Schaefer Midnight Tryst on St. Peter's Cemetery on Nennigoat Hill on the south side of South Street, opposite 11th. Look for the stone pillars that mark the cemetery entrance and the others who will be milling around in that general area. The event as it now exists was reactivated in 1977 after a lapse of 29 years. Police Chief Bernie Dubinsky, Charles Schuyler Kastner, Art Watson, Bart Hanaho, and I resurrected the observation as a follow-up to the 4 Berksiana books that were produced for the U.S. bicentennial in 1976. The last real observation had been in 1947, and then for the bicentennial they did sort of a daytime thing for 1948. It didn't amount to a whole lot, but it was an observation. I'll have some more for you very shortly in regard to this midnight tryst at Nennigoat Hill. I should comment, people many times have called me in the past asking, was it on the eve of St. Patty's Day or is it on the night of St. Patty's Day? And the answer is, over the years, it was on both nights. It sort of varied depending upon circumstances. The one this year up at the Old Catholic Cemetery will be the night of St. Patty's Day. Anne, thank you for your participation on today's panel. Tell us something about your involvement in the Women's History Month observation and what things might be in store for those with an interest.
Well, March is Women's History Month. It's celebrated nationally, just like February was Black History Month. And in conjunction with Women's History Month, the Berks County Commission for Women, along with the Berks County Historical Society, is saluting Women's History Month on their second Saturday program on March 12th. There will be, it's kind of a threefold presentation. A keynote speaker, Chancellor Speece from Berks County, Penn State Berks campus, is going to be the keynote speaker. She is retiring after many years in education, and she will be talking about making a difference, some of the changes that she has overseen at the campus in Berks County, as well as her educational experience. There also will be on the same day, within the same program, a first-person presentation by Hallie Vaughn of Eleanor Roosevelt. And this all kind of ties together with one final thread. The day is being used to honor the recent passing of my mother, Barbara Goda, who was a local historian, a 25-year volunteer at the Berks County Historical Society, a 30-plus-year teacher, history teacher in the county. And so I will be giving a biographical presentation briefly on my mother's life and her involvement and commitment to Berks County and local history. And also, the culmination of the program will be the dedication of the Barbara R. Goda classroom, which is the new classroom that's being kind of refurbed at the Historical Society. It was part of the old library, am I correct?
Correct. It was the former stack room. We added some windows to the side to make it much more inviting room, but we always needed a particular room for not only classes but also workshops that Vicki and the Education Department hold.
Right, so I understand there are tables there for the children
Yep.
to do activities and a sink for craft projects, and there's also a mural.
Yep, coming very shortly is a sinking cabinet, so Vicki can have a nice dedicated workspace there, because a lot of what she does is getting wet, and that's not the best thing to traipse around with a cover-load exhibit, as you'll see a couple pictures in a couple seconds. But we're also working with the Reading School District to also put a mural on the north side of the room as well, opposite the windows. So sort of a bland room right now, but that's about to change very shortly, and we're very much looking forward to the project, and we're very happy to honor it in your mother's name.
My mother was very interested in women's history. In the 1970s, she was a school teacher in the Schuylkill Valley School District, and she began to write some curriculum for some women's history classes because it was not readily available at that point in time yet. And then when she retired, she took a lot of her research material and wrote, many of you I think across the county are familiar with her 2 volumes, The Ladies of Reading Town, that she wrote. And there are still a few of these available in the gift shop, and they will be available that day as well. She also helped me to co-author the book on the Stalls pottery, which is an early 20th century redware site right over the line in Lehigh County. And she helped me complete some research, and we published this about 3 years ago as well. Mom was also the founder of the Leesport Lockhouse Foundation, and she edited and wrote the book for the Leesport Sesquicentennial. So she was very involved in Berks County local history, and her particular interest was women's history. As a follow-up to retirement, in addition to writing, she also did first-person presentations about Elizabeth Cady Stanton and the women's rights movement, Mary Todd Lincoln, and some of the history of the First Ladies, as well as important female inventors. So She had a very varied interest in women's history and was a mentor and a teacher and a historian here in Berks County.
Thank you, Ann.
You're welcome.
Well done.
And that program is part of our second Saturday lecture series. It'll be Saturday, March 12th at 10 a.m. at the Historical Society.
Who may come to that?
Anybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Come and bring a friend.
Certainly, certainly.
Come and
There's a small fee, correct?
Yeah.
If you're not a Historical Society member, and I think there's a light continental breakfast.
Yeah, there's a light
generally
continental
served.
breakfast that starts at 9:30, and the actual program will start about 10 o'clock. The format is usually 45 minutes to an hour plus Q&A, and afterwards we'll have the dedication of the room in your mother's honor as well.
Great. I'll look
Very
forward
nice.
to it.
That'll be nice.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Let's see. I think we're going to take a little break for some pictures. We'll use those.
Okay.
Now, again, I apologize for the quality of some of the illustrations you're going to see. I never copied anything so quickly in my life. We know that Tom Hanaho had his Stars and Stripes Hotel on South 11th Street in what had been called Irish Town, 514 South 11th. This picture was taken in the 1890s. When I published this first in the Reading Eagle newspaper, the paper was only out a couple of hours, and my phone rang. And a woman called and said, "Mr. Mazur, I want to thank you for putting my picture in today's paper." I said, "Oh." I said, "And what picture is that?" She said, "The man leaning against the light pole there was my dad, and I'm the little girl in that picture." Yeah, that was nice.
A little
Anyhow,
hard to see, but there's a little girl right here.
oh, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the little girl. By the way, don't run out to look for the Stars and Stripes Hotel at 514 South 11th. Shortly after Tom Hanaho, the mayor of Irish Town, passed away, there was a fire, and the building, Tom died in 1897, and shortly after that, there was a fire, and the building was torn down. You go there today, and there's a whole row of 1900-ish homes in that block. So the Stars and Stripes Hotel has been gone for many, many years. May we have the next picture, please?
Before we go to the next
ahead.
slide, George, I just wanted to point out really quickly this very nice Lauer Brewing Company sign right there.
Oh, that's
If I
right.
remember correctly, there was one quite like it, if not exactly like it, in our beer and pretzel exhibit.
Is that the one that was iron or something? There was a
Yeah,
heavy
it was
one.
really, it was like cast
Yeah,
iron.
it was like cast iron, and then
And it had raised lettering. It was painted up very nicely. I swear that's just like that, or is exactly like the one that was in our show about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yes.
So it's neat.
A quick comment, an overview. That's the Stars and Stripes Hotel. That sits right on the corner. Make the story, give you a very brief overview. Tom Hanaho was the mayor of Irish Town, and that is he.
Unofficial.
Oh yes, unofficial is right. That is he in the middle at the doorway, and young Alva Schaefer, who was active in the Ringgold Band, played the cornet. They were good buddies, and he would spend many an evening in the Stars and Stripes Hotel. That was quite a place inside, by the way, and there are some very clear descriptions of the interior of that, and 1 or 2 drawings. Anyhow, one night in the mid-1890s, Tom was in a rather melancholy mood, and he said to Alva, "Let's make a deal, let's make a pact." And what he proposed was that if Tom died first, Alva was supposed to come to his grave site and play the cornet over his grave. And if Alva were to die first, which was highly unlikely, Tom would go there and sing "Lass o' Galloway" and a few other "Near My God" to the end, some of the nice old pieces of that period of the mid-1890s. Well, Alva never gave it much thought, and it sort of drifted from mind. But in about 1897, Tom wasn't feeling at all well, and Alva went to see him, and he said, "You remember that pact we sort of made a couple of years ago?" And Alva said, "Yes." He said, "Well, now I hold you to that if something happens." Well, what happened was Tom passed away. And they had a wake in the Stars and Stripes Hotel. He was very prominently in the middle of the room, sort of propped up, and the others were having a great old time and wishing him well in the afterlife. He was buried. The following year, on St. Paddy's Day, a number of the men met at one of the hotels on Cotton Street, and they walked up to the grave site, and to everyone's astonishment, Alva began playing his cornet over the grave. Now, against the side of that hill where the old Catholic cemetery is, on the south side of South Street, that carried a long distance, and people were really nonplussed. They came out to see what was this that was going on. True to his word, Alva did that for many, many years. It reached the point where Alva developed a severe rheumatic hand and was unable to play. So one of his students he taught the cornet, Elmer Addis, played for him. And as time went on, he was looking forward to the 50th observation of this thing on what they call the Tryst of Nennygoat Hill. And he wasn't at all well. And this was a big thing in the Reading newspaper. Years back, this was in the news nationally. It was in Reader's Digest, it was in Coronet, it was in Collier's. It was in quite a number of this, about this unusual ritual. And so his health was a major concern. One day, the Reading Eagle would report that he's not feeling so well, he wasn't sure that he could make it. And then a couple of days later, it would say, well, he's recuperating, and it certainly seems as though that he can be there. Now, again, he wasn't playing. Elmer Addis, his student, was playing in his stead. But to make a long story short, he died a week before St. Paddy's Day. And they kept him for the full week so that he would be on board for the observation. And Elmer Addis played Nearer My God to Thee at Lasso Galloway for the last time over the grave. Now, for years, people have been saying this Lasso Galloway, where do you find the music? Let me see, Cedric Elmer went to the Library of Congress, and he was going through all sorts of things. He got in contact with ASCAP, trying to find the music. I think some communication was made with Ireland, and no one can find the music to Lasso Galloway. However, when we resurrected the observation in 1977, we had someone play Lasso Galloway. How could they do it? Well, someone found in an old trunk one part of 4 parts, divided into 4 parts. They found one part, and what they played, and I did record that, sounded like 1 part of 4. The bottom line is, I didn't think it was very musical. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. But anyhow, they played it, and we did the best we could. Now, it has been going on yearly since that time, and this observation will be held again this year on St. Paddy's Day night. When? At midnight. We hope it's a nice day. In the years gone by, when Gloria and I would be there every year, sometimes it was a mild night. Rarely. Most of the time, when you're on the side of that hill at midnight, it's cool. I remember Gloria Jean a few times was hiding behind a tombstone to avoid being hit by the snow. And there were times when we stood in snow 4 or 5, 6 inches deep. But we did it. We didn't do it for the last few years, but we might get back there again this year for the observation. But we have the next picture, please.
Now, does that happen on midnight of the day itself?
Midnight at the end of St. Paddy's Day.
At the end of St. Paddy's Day.
Caps
Okay.
off St. Paddy's Day.
Okay.
Now, what you're seeing there is a drawing that was made by the Reading Times cartoonist Leroy Gensler. And there you have Alva Schaefer, the old-time bandmaster, holding a flashlight there on the left, and his student, Elmer Addis, playing the music for him. I should say this very quickly. What made Tom Hanaho so popular was that he was a real town character. He would wear his full green outfit with a green hat, but he would always wear a red tie in honor of his good friend Alva Schaefer, who was German, and the red was supposed to represent Alva. And he would walk around and parade around town singing some of the Irish things, and he had this great big stone, which everyone wondered, was it a real diamond or wasn't it? Bottom line was, it wasn't. But everyone knew Tom Hanaho, the mayor of Irishtown, because he would get into parades in the city of Reading on Penn Street. He was sort of the fellow all around town. There wasn't anybody in the 1890s who did not know Tom Hanaho. There on the right-hand side, you see last year Schaefer was featured on Ripley's radio program, Believe It or Not. Millions heard his story and the strange pact. The next picture, please. Down below, it talks about the number of people who would come out. When we did it, I think in 1977, there might have been 8,000 people. That was very impressive. Art Watson, our good friend who was involved in acting, he was a teacher, stood on top of the hill. He had a white suit on, and no, he had a green suit on, and we had a police van there. They ran a wire up with a spotlight, and at midnight, the spotlight went on and illuminated Art Watson on the top of the hill. It was really very impressive. Police Chief Dubinsky pulled that off with that illumination on top of the hill. I think there were about 8,000. There were times in the past when as many as 10,000 people came. Well, when it was in all those magazines, there was a nationwide curiosity, and virtually everybody in Berks years back managed to come to see what was going on. And in the lower right-hand corner, you have a drawing there of the Stars and Stripes Hotel, which was really quite a place. It was heated, and it was illuminated with kerosene. The minute you opened the door, you smelled kerosene. And they had all kinds of posters on the walls for boxing matches, for circuses, for entertainments. And at times, the posters stuck out from the wall 5 inches. And then they would go in and pull some down to make room for the next ones coming along. But you can imagine, with the kerosene impregnating all those posters, that was an accident waiting to happen, and indeed, it did happen. The next picture. At 23rd and Perkiomen Avenue, next to St. Catherine's School Auditorium, you have that empty lot that in more recent years was used by a bank. They had a drive-in teller there on the corner of 23rd and Perkiomen Avenue. That would be on the southeast corner. That was a wagon works at one time. And Alva Schaefer worked there, and there is an inset of Alva Schaefer. That picture was taken in 1922. Next picture. This I think I took, this I took in 1978 at the second observation. We had some people playing in that little musical group. Harry Wendler, active with the Ringgold Band. By the way, Wendler was one of those people who played when Sousa played the last time in the city of Reading with the Ringgold Band. Dennis Sharman, Donald Eibach, and Waylon Smith. Said, ice-crested walkways and freezing chill, but no deterrent to the musicians. Their poor lips almost froze to the mouthpieces. They performed nobly. At that time, they had 800 spectators who came to pay their respects. Now, the fellow standing on the left was Alva Schaefer III. Alva Schaefer's grandson was there officiating that night. So that gives you a little bit of an idea. If any of you are curious for the whole story, I really skimmed it, really a surface observation and commentary. Volume 1 of The Passing Scene has 2 stories in, one on Tom Hanaho, the other one on Alva Schaefer. So if you're curious, your library probably has volume 1 of The Passing Scene. You can check that. Let's go on. And Joshua.
Yeah, I brought a few images. We'll have a look at some now, maybe have a look at some a little bit later here. First of all, our cover letter exhibit opened in February last month. We had a tremendous turnout. We were very, very pleased. Shocked would be one word, but we were very, very pleased. We had more than 100 people there. It was tremendous. Yeah. Let's get this slideshow to cooperate. Here we go. I thought I'd give you a quick tour, but this certainly does not give you an excuse to not come in and see us. This is actually our 3rd exhibit in the Palmer Gallery, which was formerly the Palmer Library. The education classroom we were talking about before was the former staff room located just off of this room here. This is our Keeping Cozy Fancy Coverlets of Berks County, 1830 to 1860. We have about 12 or 13, about a baker's dozen coverlets in here. As you can see in the back wall, we have 2 full out. The other ones we sort of had to roll up or fold up just to get them in the room here. This exhibit is scheduled to run at least until the end of the year. It was originally scheduled until the beginning of November to coordinate with a very popular educational event. Well, we decided, certainly with our busy Christmas tour season, we wanted to have it up throughout the year. What we're going to do halfway through the exhibit, probably in June, we're going to switch it to a second set of coverlets because we just had quite an amazing response to pieces. So I'm just going to quick walk through the exhibit here. Some of the cases, we took materials, either blanket chests or plates or pottery, that sort of evoked the designs on the coverlets themselves. So in the bottom left here, you can see a gaudy Dutch plate with a rose. Maybe if you have a high-def TV, you'll be able to see that very well. I sort of feature one of these companion pieces a little bit better coming up here. A section where we talk about weaving and carding. Have some wonderful WPA samples you can see in the case on the right-hand side here. Again, quite a variety of coverlets came in, produced all throughout the county. We weren't able to get every weaver represented, but we'll have some other weavers represented in the next one. These are a couple of pieces. The top one here is by John Kirst of Center Township. On the bottom one here, we didn't have a manufacturer on that, but it's quite interesting to see. We have some original patterns. You can see here's the peacock motif on the actual coverlet itself, and here's the actual pattern right here. This is an actual weaver's pattern from our archives donated to us in the 1920s. And down at the bottom right, we have a piece of tollware which features a peacock, and down here is another piece of gaudy Dutch which also features a peacock.
Yeah, we have that book that's very, very rare with those patterns.
One on the bottom, probably from the Ole Valley, it features tulips, and the one above it features tulips as well. And you can see that there's a piece of stoneware here that features tulips, also a butter mold, and also some redware. But at the bottom right here, and here's a closer-up image, these are actually barn hinges that feature tulips. So we were able to very nicely intersperse the exhibit with items that also had the decorative materials on them. Again, you can see the 2 ones full out. Actually, it works very well to show the size and scope of these pieces. A section on dyeing. One of the dyeing recipes involves urine, believe it or not. And I remember hearing something about, we had a guest curator for the exhibit, we wanted to thank her for this exhibit, but one of the recipes involves urine. And someone said they had to make sure it was from a prepubescent man or girl, because, boy or girl, because apparently the hormones would affect the dyeing. Very strange. We have a really good dyeing video. Of course, it's not very easy to show in an exhibit like this. We have a dyeing video that shows the dyeing process, and actually it came from North Carolina or South Carolina Public Television.
There was a dye shop in South 6 feet years ago that used to advertise, your dyeing is our living.
Oh, that's horrible. There's some spinning wheels and some walking wheels here used by a gentleman from Berks County. And we're back to the beginning here. A couple events coming up, and we'll introduce our second special guest of the evening. Of course, we have our second Saturday on March 12th, which Angoda just talked about, and we'll tell you about our second event just after the break here.
You're watching the Historical Society of Berks County on hsbctv.org. Be informed, be involved, be a member. For membership information, go to www.bctv.org/support/membership. For other information on local heritage societies and local history, go to bctv.org. The Historical Society of Berks County on bctv.org is underwritten by the Highlands. To find out how you and your business can support a program on BCTV, go to bctv.org.
Okay, we're back. Our second event beyond our March 12th second Saturday program, we have a Hendel House open house from 11 to 4 on Saturday, the 12th of March. It's our monthly open house where you can tour our Hendel House. And 2 weeks later, we have our, we have an image up here on the laptop. We have our free educational event. Kitty Jones, our ever popular lady, is back. It's a free program, also in coordination with Women's History Month. She'll be presenting a program called Women's Rights.
That's a great picture.
It's a tremendous photo. It came out very well in our newsletter. She's going to be portraying a suffragist, and we'll be exploring 19th century roles and values at home and in the workforce, and that's a free program, Saturday at 10 a.m. on the 26th. We'll have time for a couple of slideshows here after a little bit here, but I wanted to introduce our second guest of the evening. I'd like to introduce Ms. Edie Sheen Hammond, who is superintendent of Hopewell National Historic Site for the past 5 years. And just welcome to our program.
Well, thank you, Josh. This is my first time on the program.
Oh, thank you.
Quite exciting.
Thank you.
And it's been interesting to hear. We had women's rights, which is because it is March, and March is Women's History Month. And I would like to, I think it's a very good segue into the industry that made stoves. And it was interesting for me, being superintendent, never having, really spent a lot of time with Hopewell history, to learn from a man the value of the stove. I said, he came up to me, it was a living history fellow, portraying Civil War sergeant. And he said, Superintendent Sheen Hammond, don't you understand the value of the stove? And I said, well, I really don't, so please explain it to me. And he said, well, because of the stove and the stoves that were made at Hopewell, and at one point there were 5,000 done in one day. We had this sign up.
5,000 in one day.
5,000 in one day that were put together and were sold. And they were sold, and many of them look like this, little one right here. And they were sold all over the East Coast. They were shipped to London. There is a Hopewell stove in a castle in Ireland. Okay, so what does this have to do with women's rights? Well, the production of stoves started at Hopewell in 1772, and we have the 1772 Hopewell stove. But they really weren't made en masse until the 1820s. And it was from 1820 to pretty much into almost to the Civil War, where this mass market, the Sears Roebuck of stoves, was here in Berks County. What happened, this stove allowed women to get away from the open hearth. We have open hearth demonstrations at the park, and you will see that you do not leave the open hearth. Not only do you not leave it, you are there to protect your children from going into the hearth. And there are many incidences of women clothes catching on fire from the open hearth. So the stove came about, and women could start to read. They could start to write. They could start talking about rights and women's rights. So in 1848, this stove made its way up to a little place called Seneca Falls, New York. And a woman by the name of Elizabeth Cady Stanton, which you heard, lived in Seneca Falls and had a little convention there in 1848, which was the first women's rights convention. And we're excited because we have a touring play that deals with a woman's life and her stove. It's a one-woman play done by Barbara Hanevig, who is a actress of 40 years stage and screen. It's written by Christine Emmert, who is an international playwright, and it will be at 1 o'clock on that Saturday, March 12th, at Hopewell.
So you have enough time to get from the Historical Society to
You have enough time to
Hopewell?
get from the Historical Society
Yep.
to Hopewell. We are also staging it in Allentown this Sunday at 7 o'clock at the Liberty Museum, Liberty Bell Shrine Museum. And you'll see it's going to be at the Goggle Works in the fall. It's going to be at the Heritage Center in June. And it's free, totally free, because the writer, director, and the actress are Hopewell volunteers. So we have been graced with this sort of tremendous gift, totally volunteer activity. If it's been filmed, it's on the internet now. If you go to the Friends of Hopewell Facebook site, you can see the film of the play. So women's history is a very important part of what we do at Hopewell. Other news from that I can share with you is that you may know that it's the sesquicentennial of the Civil War.
Yep, starting this year, yeah.
Well, it's actually, the war started. And so we have been placed on Pennsylvania Civil War trails. We have Civil War reenactors who come. They, too, are volunteers. And they do little drills. Of course, there were never any battles at Hopewell. But Hopewell was the home front. And the discussions that happened during the Civil Wars, what's going to happen if the soldiers do come, and of course it was producing, which I found out when I went to Richmond battlefield, it was actually producing iron for the South prior to prior to Fort Sumter and
Let me guess, Tredegar Iron Works.
at Tredegar Iron Works.
Yep.
Exactly. I went to Tredegar and they said, well, Edie, our iron came, the good iron, came from the highlands of Pennsylvania, which of course was Hopewell, and other furnaces too, but we produced a lot of pig iron and shipped it all over the place, and it certainly was shipped to Virginia. And it took a while for Virginia to secede from the Union. They didn't secede with with Georgia. They seceded a little bit later, and the interesting thing is that once they did secede, Tredegar Iron Works could not get the good iron, and we know that the Confederacy did lose. So we take a little bit of credit for producing some good iron products for the Union. These are some of the folks that are at the park. So
We've got some slides here on the laptop.
So if you want to,
You know, I was thinking, what a difference it must have made at Hopewell when they opened the Schuylkill Canal. Near Red Corner, you go back at Red Corner along 724, and they have the Hopewell landing there when they brought the stoves up and put them on the Schuylkill Canal boats. Have you ever been to that Hopewell landing?
I have,
Have you? It's
what-
interesting. You can still see where the landing was.
Yes, you can
Have you
still.
ever seen that?
No.
I think you
It's in a.
should.
It's in a. It's a. I think it's still private
Oh,
residence.
it is.
What's exciting, though, is that the state is creating the Hopewell Big Woods Trail, which will leave from the Schuylkill River and will go up Shed Road and right over into French Creek State Park, and then down through Hopewell, so that we will have a way to hike directly to close to that landing point.
You can stand on the road, the public road, and look over.
Yeah, on the site that it's from, Tim's Ugly Mug is where the trail, the Schuylkill River Trail, will pick up from there, and they are building a trail that will go right to Hopewell from there. And then we also are going to be able to offer hikes to the mine sites as well, because the state is working with us to build trails. We have a trail now where you can hike to St. Peter's Village, and that, of course, was built up as a mining town. Of course, that's in Chester County. Half of our park is in Chester County, and half of our park is in Berks County. But the actual, and George, you will know that the actual site of the furnace is in Berks County. So the furnace itself is in Berks County. Other things that are happening that are kind of exciting is that the reason why we have French Creek State Park and the reason why we have Hopewell Furnace is due to the Civilian Conservation Corps. And along with St. Patrick's Day and along with Women's History Month in the month of March, the Civilian Conservation Corps was created back in 1935, I believe, or 33, and they came to Hopewell in 35. And 800 men created what we know today as the 8,000-acre pleasuring ground. And it really wasn't until 1938 that Hopewell Furnace became a National Historic Site. But it was those men who were, lucky for us, they were World War I veterans, and they weren't youngsters, and they had been over to fight for their heritage, and they started seeing these 18th century structures being torn down, and they said, this is a nice historic place. We need to preserve a little history here. So Roosevelt hired some important archaeologists and architects and others, and so we have Hopewell Furnace, which again, and we will have an event to celebrate. Actually, we do two events, one in March called March for Parks, where we invite the community to walk in the footsteps of the Civilian Conservation Corps and come and help us clean up. It's a really 2-hour cleanup, and then we do a program for them afterwards. And we get several hundred youngsters who come and work on that. And then on April 1st, we're going to have a jazz concert to play swing music, because we believe that as they were working hard on these structures, they were listening to the swing music on the radio, and as well as keeping tabs on the upcoming war. So that should be fun. It's the Exeter County Band.
Exeter Community Band. I'm a member of it myself.
Are you coming?
I hope so. I got to check the date, but I hope so. Hope to be coming.
It's in April.
Yep.
So it's April 1st. I hope so. I hope that would be great fun. And we'll give you a Jazz Fest T-shirt.
Excellent.
That's all we have to
Worth
give.
a T-shirt.
That would be great fun, because Tom, who's in this picture,
I was going to say, that gentleman looks familiar.
Is one of your plays the piccolo, I believe.
It's a woodwind instrument. I'm just a silly old percussionist, so
oh, well,
I want to say oboe, but I could be wrong.
So we can, and so that should be great fun. So we're celebrating in March all of those things, and I think I would be remiss for the historians here, if I didn't speak to the fact that we're going to do a local history day. That's in May. This was the first time that we will have done that with Dan Graham. I don't know if you know him, and some other historians, and this will be the first time that we're going to be involved in taking that on. So there's a lot going on for us, and if you people are interested, we can look at some other
Sure.
pictures here too. We will be we are the only place in the country that actually does charcoal. Our colliers, we have 40 members of the community that are a really dedicated group. We'll be doing the making of charcoal 3 times this coming year. Mother's Day, come to Hopewell, and we have sheep shearing going on as well as charcoal making. We also do it at the very beginning of the August for our establishment day, and then again in the fall. One of the exciting things that's happened along with our sesquicentennial activities is that we have been looking at records that reflect the United States colored troops. And one of the Hopewell was a completely integrated society, which is interesting. There were interracial marriages going on at Hopewell when there were race riots going on in Philadelphia. But Isaac Cole, who is very close by on Geigertown Road at the...
10 minutes, okay.
You've, I'm sure, been to the Cole's property, George, where the first mission church, the Mount Frisbee Episcopal Methodist Church, is there on his property.
There were still benches and books in there when I first went there.
Fascinating.
Yeah, years back.
Fascinating. Well, John Cole has done some really good work in terms of restoring the cemetery, and some people would say it's the oldest slave burial ground in Berks County. But the United States Colored Troops activity has also had us really look at the history of African American, the African American legacy at the park, and we're finding tremendous relationship between the making of iron, the actual making of the charcoal, because of course charcoal, limestone, and iron ore is what made iron, and it's for us truly fascinating to find out that Mark Bird, who started this place in 1770, was the largest slave owner in Berks and Chester County, and he brought his slaves from Lake Victoria and from the Iron Country in Africa, and they brought with them this technology. So Scientific American has been doing some research in this area, and they're finding that the same process, again, we're the only place in the country that does this regularly. Some other places have tried, but they can't keep it going. They're finding that indeed the same way that our colliers make charcoal mirrors the way Africans made it 10,000 years ago. So it's a technology that has come, that came through Africa, the business side, of course, was English approach to business, but the technology itself came from Africa. And some of Mark Bird's slaves ran away, and their names, he put, he was a good businessman, he wanted them back, so he put advertisements locally for those slaves, and their names are the same names as towns in that Lake Victoria district. We are in the process of working on an Iron Heritage Trail. The Iron Heritage Trail brochure will be coming out hopefully, I guess in a couple of months. We anticipate having it out certainly by May 1st for this History Day. And then we're going to be working with the Lake Victoria district, because they're also doing a Iron History Trail over there. So Berks County and Hopewell is becoming quite international with our women's rights play, which is the play is called From Out the Fiery Furnace, and it is we've just been invited to go not only to the Goggle Works, but also to Seneca Falls and to do our play up there. Again, it's a free play, so if people are interested in having it come to churches, it's been touring all over, going to Trinity Reformed Church in Pottstown, to Warwick County Park, to Berks County Heritage Center, to Penn State Westchester campus, and to West Nant Mill Township is what we have scheduled at this point in time.
Very good. Toby, thank you. By the way, can you go back to that one slide that we had? On the other...
Oh, the other one.
There was a question that I wanted to get at.
Sure.
Maybe tomorrow yet, if you can find that one.
Oh,
Edie, we thank you much. It's been very enlightening.
This one. Is it this one?
Yes. Folks, we need your help. What you're seeing on the screen is a picture made from a 5 by 7 inch tin type or ferrotype print. That took quite a bit of doctoring to get it to look quite that nice. It was in the family of the Closes, C-L-O-S-E. It's in Berks County. We thought it might be in Exeter Township, but we're not sure. We know that definitely that's in Berks County. Now, because it was a tin type, which produced like a mirror type of image, I don't know whether the person who put this on eBay, whether the person knew enough to reverse it, or if they did reverse it. We don't know whether that's facing the right way. Does anyone recognize that house with the 5 windows across the top, that Victorian porch going completely across the front of the building? And there's a barn there on the left-hand side, the beginnings of a barn. The public road would have been in the foreground with that fence separating the property from the public road. Does anyone recognize that? If they do, please call the Historical Society, ask for Gloria Jean or ask for Joshua. We would love to know, thank you, we would love to know where that is, because that's a very rare picture. That probably maybe 1874, 1875, and it is one of those old tin types or a ferrotype. So take a good look at it, folks. I'm sure that building still stands. It's definitely in Berks. Somebody has to recognize that, and hope that someone is watching either tonight or during the reruns that can get back to us on that. How much time do we have?
Looks like we have about 4 minutes or so. There you go, 4 minutes.
Can we have, starting at number 32, we can get a few in before we close out.
Well, they're queuing up, if I can mention real quick, George.
That's good.
Coming up on April 2nd, we have our initial program of our Terence E. Connor Presidential Lecture Series. In coordination with the sesquicentennial of the Civil War, our first program is going to be on Abraham Lincoln, and this is going to be our speaker for that program. This is Dr. Matthew Pinsker of Dickinson College. He'll be presenting a program entitled Boss Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln as a Political Party Leader, that focuses on his leadership of the Republican Party. We don't have enough time, even if we started the full show right now, we don't have enough full time to talk about Mr. Pinsker's very impressive background, but he is the chair of history department at Dickinson. He's been a published author of a couple books as well. But that's going to be on Saturday, April 2nd at 4 o'clock at the Historical Society. It is a free event for members. It's about 125 capacity seating. We do expect it to be a very popular event. It is going to be a ticketed event. Even if you are a member, you still need a ticket. We're going to have tickets available shortly, so please call or please stop by to reserve a seat. But free for members, $5 for non-members.
Now, Josh, you know that Berks County did not go for Lincoln.
Yes, we do.
They went for Breckinridge.
Well, we have an exhibit in 2 years talking about that in part, so it's a very interesting history.
We did a Liberty Pole rally for Breckinridge this past year at the park, a recreation of a Liberty Pole rally. They all said we have to do it for Breckinridge because Berks County did not go for Lincoln.
Yep, they went Democratic. Yeah.
Do we have the slides set up? We were going to start, I think, at number 32, but anyhow, we'll just take that from where that is. That is a very, very old picture of Penn Street. That is facing northward. We're looking to the south side of Penn Street. In the center of the street, you can see where the old the stalls were, where they tied up the horses and whatever. We had those stalls on Penn Street in the middle of the street until 1871. But looking straight ahead, we're looking from 4th up to 5th, and what you're seeing there on the left-hand side became part of the old Whitner's store, which burned in that spectacular fire in 1911. And you had a photographer over here on the right side. That is one of the oldest quality pictures of Penn Street in the heart of Penn Square.
What time period, George?
70s. 1870, 71. It was right around the time. You can still see where they tied up horses and whatever for the market stalls.
Obviously, the market's gone at this point.
The market is gone. It was the last was just taken away in 71. John Mell. They used to have a horse in front of that John Mell's place, like a wooden horse. Maybe we have the next picture, please. Oops, I have the thing. Sorry about that. And I wondered why it didn't change. Well, we're at 5th and Penn. That was taken away to put up the fashion, the fashion store. There was a woman there who had quite a reputation for making fine ladies' wigs. Was in that building. That whole corner was torn away for buildings that many of us remember that stood until just about 3 or 4 years ago when they took down the Farr Shoe Store building, which would be that which you see on the far right. That was the Farr Shoe Store building, but when this picture was taken, that was still the Union National Bank. Those were very, very old buildings that went back to the early part of the 1800s. Those were really very early buildings. Is her name? Oh, there it is, Hair Goods. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I think that's about the end of it. Tell your friends about our program, which is on live the first Wednesday of each month at 7. The program repeats Friday at 10, Saturday at 6, and Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Thanks to today's panel. We had Ann Goda, Edie Sheehan-Hammond, Joshua Blay, and myself. I'm George Miser IX, your host and the 51-year member of the Historical Society of Berks County. We look forward to having you join us again on the first Wednesday of April. Thank you for watching.
The Historical Society